Hello for those that are currently joining. We will start right on the hour. So we have another minute or so, just letting people in. Again, for those just joining in, we will get started in about 1 minute, just kind of waiting for everyone. We will start in the hour. If you're in the Northeast, I hope you're staying warm today. It's cold up here. All right, we have 1 o'clock, so when we get started, I want to thank you all for joining us today for supporting Alcohol Awareness Month. For those of you that don't know me, and actually before I even get started, let me just say this up front. We have already started the recording. Just wanted to let you know this is a recorded webinar. And if you do have any questions, we have the Q&A open, as well as you can submit some stuff in chat. I've got the team is on the line, so Brittany Larrabee, as well as Crystal Boyven is on the line as well. And we'll be answering these questions as we walk through the presentation today. So feel free to ask away, and I'll get started. And so thank you all for being here today. We're going to talk about, this is kind of one of those subjects which I wasn't sure, and the team wasn't sure about putting this on the agenda, but actually I've got a lot of great feedback from folks saying that this is something they've been looking for. It's not a topic that is usually out there, talking about alcohol and awareness. So I just want to put it right up front. I am not a therapist, not a counselor. I have been in the health and wellness field for several years. And so today's session is really about education. It's about resources, tools, and providing some information for you to be able to share either with a friend, with a family member, or just for yourself in general. So let's get right into the topics for today. And not something we thought we'd want to see ever again, but it's here, it's still here. And I thought it would be some good information to share from a pandemic perspective. Obviously, we all know this started a couple of years ago. And as soon as it started, I don't think this is any new information for anyone that's on this webinar today, but we saw a huge uptick in drinking and alcoholism and just in general alcohol awareness. And so this isn't something that's new to anyone, but we do know the numbers have climbed. And I'm kind of anxious to see what CDC comes out with in a year or so, that we can kind of see the data behind it to see if we've had a huge spike and the spike has stayed up. I can say, over time through the pandemic, individuals had an additional 6 drinks per month on an average. And I think, again, most people are aware of this. They saw, from a CDC perspective, the Centers for Disease Control, they saw an increase in heavy drinking from females, as well as from males. But you can see from a family perspective in the household, there was an uptick of nearly 60%. The numbers go on and on. I just grabbed a few that I had seen from CDC because I thought it was, in my mind, like, wow. I really didn't realize it was such a big concern or issue from that side of the house. And then overall, I think something most people are aware of, but maybe not know the number, is what was the excessive drinking increase for the first 9 months within the pandemic, and it's up 38%. So again, we're out of the pandemic, we're moving forward, but that doesn't mean the information that I'm sharing here today hasn't stuck with a lot of folks. So we're probably seeing still an increase in drinking and alcoholism, and it's something that needs to be addressed because it is a health issue that is a concern for the Borislow Health and Wellbeing team, as well as for any health folks within, in today's society. So when I think of the numbers that have increased, when I think of what we've seen from an increase over the last couple of years from drinking perspective, that kind of comes to mind. And for those of you who know me, I have 4 kids in my family, and 3 of them have been driving for a while, and I've got another one that's getting ready to get into a car. I'm sure some of you are in the same boat. And so when I think of driving, I think of, okay, we know what's happened and where alcoholism has increased, and we also know that those individuals, some of them still getting cars. So we see an increase in in deaths in cars, and a lot of it has to do with alcoholism and alcohol impaired driving. So something to think about, something to be aware of, that this isn't something that's going away unless we address it today, unless we talk about it, unless we really make it known that alcohol is an issue within our society. And what can we do about it, which I'm going to share today, some tools, some resources, some ways to address it. But I thought this was a great statistic to share, to look at what's kind of happening and how it's going to get worse over time. And so I thought what we could do is take a poll, take a couple polls for you today. I'm going to put some up on the screen, and if you could share your thoughts on moderate consumption. So what is moderate consumption? The first poll, and I'll launch it for you. The first poll is, how many drinks a day is defined as moderate alcohol consumption for women? And the second one is, how many for men? Now, surprisingly enough, some may know this, may not know this, but there is a difference in what men and women can have, should have, depending on driving, depending on absorption of the alcohol in the system. So for men, we absorb, women actually absorb it faster than men, alcohol. So there's a difference in what the number is and how much we should have. So it looks like we've got the numbers in, and most of you for women are saying 1, and everyone pretty much for men, well, no, and for men we're saying 2. Got a few more coming in. All right, so I'm going to end the poll. And truth be told, let's share the results so everyone can see it. Truth be told, those that said 1 for women are correct. It's actually less for women than for men, and men it's for 2 a day. So those are drinks for moderate alcohol consumption per day. And let's talk about what moderate alcohol consumption is, because for some people they think it's a little different than others. All right, so let me move on. All right, so what's the standard? And this is a good educational piece for anyone that hasn't gone through this in a long time, especially when someone, you go out, you have drinks with friends, or you're talking with folks, and you want to be able to, make sure you're not drinking too much alcohol, and then you're gonna get into a car. And this is where this comes to an important piece: is 1 beer at 5% alcohol is the standard for 1 drink. You can move it up the line, you can see it. If you want to get the new malt liquor drinks, where there's a lot of different breweries out there, obviously it's going to be less because of these percent alcohol that's higher. And then you move forward to wine, which is obviously more in alcohol from a 12% perspective. So it's only 5 fluid ounces. Then of course we get into the liquor side of whiskey, the gins, the rums, things like that. So there's your standard. Now, if we think about it from a driving in a car perspective, I know everyone has their ways of thinking through this. I'm not saying get into a car and drive after alcohol. All I'm saying is, what is the BAC levels? And where are you at from a weight perspective? Because the old rule of thumb still stands true today. And that is, if you're going to get into a car and you're going to have a drink, you have to wait 1 hour with that drink. And what is the standard, which we just talked about, and knowing your comfort level getting in the car. Obviously, I'm saying have no drinks, get into a car and you're safe. And if individuals do feel like they're going to get in the car, then you have to really consider your weight, your body weight, and how many drinks you've had to get in the car. And so from a rule of thumb, from a male to a female, they're a little different, and just know your level and use that rule of thumb. I pass this on to my kids. I show my kids this, especially with another one getting into a car. Even if you're at a party, please give me a call. Please don't get into a car with 0 drinks, and at least they know, this type of information. I think is important for folks to be aware of. So let's get off that piece, which I just wanted to share, because it's just kind of a readdressing those things a lot of us know. The bigger piece, I think, is talking more about the health, and what does alcohol do from a health perspective. That's really where I wanted to come from today, was talking about what effects health-wise alcohol has on the body, on the system, on the mind. First one I think we all know is the brain's communication pathways. As soon as you start to have 1 alcohol beverage or 2, you start to see a change in your thought process. Things, especially if you're in a car, start to move a little slower, and your reaction time is different. So from a brain perspective, that's obviously one thing I think most people know that alcohol will affect from a health perspective. The other thing that others may not realize or know is from a heart perspective, if I am an excessive drinker, a heavy drinker, and that is, more than that 2 a day, limit, 2 to 3 a day, and I become an excessive drinker, then I have to be concerned about things like heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, sclerosis of the liver, which is really just an inflammation of the liver, which is something that is very common with heavy drinkers over time, as well as something that maybe some folks don't realize is the immune system. It becomes much weaker when you've been drinking alcohol. So for a lot of people, if you're going to drink alcohol and you're sick, chances are you will either get sicker because your immune system is down, or if you're not sick and you feel like you're coming down with something, as soon as you drink alcohol of any form, usually your immune system becomes much weaker and you're targeted much easier from a virus perspective. So if you haven't seen that over time, that's something that happens with most, and it's just something to be aware of. And then the last two, one being pancreatitis, can be really affected with heavy alcohol consumption over time. And then lastly is the cancer. There are several cancers linked to alcohol, 7 to be particularly, which you can see up on the screen here. And these are things that from an overtime perspective, it's scientifically shown that you can actually get cancer from drinking excessive amount of alcohol. What that number is, it's different for everyone, but I wanted to share so you were aware from an information perspective. And let's celebrate the positive too. I hate to be the bearer of bad news on everything, so I thought I'd put a little bit of positive in there. It has to do with alcohol consumption, and it actually can be healthy for you in moderate, I'll say that again, in moderate activities. And so that was the reason why I really asked the question of 1 drink versus 2 drink for male and female. If you're having a little small amounts of alcohol a day with with dinner and things like that, it actually can be positive health for you. It's kind of like that argument of coffee, right? Everyone says, well, coffee's bad for you, coffee's good for you, which is bad, which is good. And of course, coffee in moderation is healthy for you because of the caffeine. If you have it in high amounts, it can actually have a negative effect on the health, which is the same thing with alcohol, no different. Just making sure that you're drinking a smaller amount, and obviously staying in shape. If you're in good shape and you're drinking alcohol, then there can be some positive effects on the heart, with the arteries. There can be some positive effects with kidney stones, as well as the old saying, if you drink together, you stay together. I mean, that's really a positive, because with alcohol, you tend to be looser and having greater friends and staying with friends. And so that's the positive. I wanted to put some positive out there. I thought it'd be good to have. I'm not saying that alcohol is always negative. I'm not saying that you should drink or not drink, but it's just important to know that there are some positives to it. Let's talk about the cost. I think this is a no-brainer. I put the cost piece out there so you could hear and understand that there is a major cost. I think the really big cost is obviously, especially today, buying the alcohol. I mean, alcohol has gone up from a cost perspective because of the pandemic, because of everything. So you're spending a lot of money out of pocket anyways. But the bigger picture here is, if I'm drinking an excessive amount of alcohol over time, then the cost from a financial perspective really weighs on an individual, maybe an individual and a family. Because now if I have health problems, or if I have health issues due to drinking alcohol, well, then I got to look at not only my medical insurance, but also my family's needs from a health perspective. And if I'm drinking an excessive amount, then there's an out-of-pocket expense that's going to be there from not only from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective. So if you look at the big picture on the cost, there's obviously a big cost in a lot of different ways from consumption. The biggest one being, if you get into a car after you're drinking, I think we all realize and understand what the issues can be with that and the dangers that come with that. So I wanted to put it on there as a food for thought. If you are drinking excessively, or if you know a family member that's drinking excessively or having alcohol and getting into a car, it's a conversational piece to move forward with, so you can talk to someone on that one. And I'm going to give some tools and resources at the end of this, so you can kind of use those as for your tool belt, if you will. So why am I talking today? Kind of what's the purpose behind me being here and really focusing? For me and for the team, for the health and wellbeing team at Borislow Insurance, we focus on one thing a month. And we have a list of those things we focus on. They're all health education based, and they're all things that we can provide to you, the listener, to be able to talk through. And April was Alcohol Awareness Month. I mean, we were like, yeah, do we go that route? Do we not? And I think it was important that we went this route because it's a subject that has to be talked about more. And so just know that April is Alcohol Awareness Month. And what does that mean? Well, it means it's really just about making you folks and folks in the community aware of what it is and why it's something that we're talking about in April. It's a national event. It isn't something we just picked out of a hat. It's something that happens nationally. There are actually days in the week, weekends that individuals do things from a alcohol, no alcohol perspective. We help, and obviously the other piece of it is to try to help understand the causes as well as treatment available for individuals and families that may be going through a certain circumstance when it comes to alcohol, and being aware of what they can do from an individual perspective. So it's an important month. I don't think, I've never seen this as something that's come forth as much as I'm seeing it now, especially with the pandemic being a part of the past and moving forward. I think all those individuals that started to drink in the pandemic, a lot of them are still drinking heavily. So it's something that we as individuals and folks can help to make others aware and start to help. And how can I help, right? And so what can I do from an individual perspective to be able to help? Well, you can participate in an alcohol-free weekend. I was just on with one of the my team members, and she talked about giving up alcohol for 3 months. Perfect. That's just another way to give up alcohol and to show your support for having an alcohol-free weekend, month, quarter, whatever it may be. In April, we already missed it, but in April, the first weekend in April, I believe it is, there's a 72-hour alcohol-free weekend that a lot participate in, as well as, if I remember correctly, this January, it's Dry January. Folks talk about doing Dry January. It's another way to participate and to show support. I'm not one to put my values on folks and say, you must stop or not stop. I think it's important for folks just to participate and show their support for these type of things. So, find a weekend that you can do 72 hours or 2 weekends or 3 weekends or, a month, whatever works for you and whatever you're comfortable with. But maybe the family works with it as well. The other thing is to, if you are consuming alcohol and you maybe not aware yourself, maybe you're here for you. I think doing things like tracking the quantity you're consuming and knowing that, believe it or not, and this is just the way the science works out, because women absorb alcohol more than men and faster than men. For men, you can do 12 to 14 a week from an alcohol standard perspective of consumption, whereas women are in the 7 to 9 range, usually 7 from a consumption perspective. So it's a little different, but at least, look at what you're drinking, track what you're drinking, so you can kind of get a feel for where you stand. And then lastly, something I'm a big proponent of with 4 kids, educating the family, really educating the kids. I am very much an open door with my kids, and letting them know the goods, the bads, the uglies of alcohol, and letting them make choices. But that's my way. And I think education is so needed at the younger levels. And then lastly, you can hashtag Alcohol Awareness Month if you like social media and you work with social media. It's just something to make others aware. For groups, if you're looking for support, and there is support out there, there's a lot of support in the communities that you live in, no matter if it's in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or across in California. There's plenty of support out there and plenty of opportunity. I think the first one most know about, which is Get and Remain Sober Long Term, AA. There's also Alateen, which is coping with someone in your family that maybe, or a friend that has a drinking behavior. There's also Smart Recovery, which is varying types of addictions. There's an opportunity. And then the last 2, again, I just plucked from the research that I was doing, and there's a lot out there, but these 5 were they were kind of standouts to me. The SOS is Get and Remain Sober. They're very similar to AA, just a different organization that has started up. And then the last one, if you really want educational resources, centerstone.org, tons and tons of resources, plenty of places to go out there to start research and find information and share information. This is all about sharing today, which is why I'm here working, and working with you on what's available out there. But it's important to, know the resources and tools that you can have available. Here's some additional resources to help. This is information that where I pulled a lot of this from. CDC, which is Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They have tons of information, tons of resources, tons of data that can be shared. And again, it's Alcohol Awareness Month, so the more that we can share, the better off I think everyone is. So I wanted to keep this to a short and sweet today. I want to thank you all for being here. I know it was, a shorter 20-minute presentation, but I thought at least we can get across the main points that, sharing from an Alcohol Awareness Month. And I want to thank you all for being here and being a part of just listening to what I have to say from this this actual important message that I think we need to get across. And know that next month is on sleep awareness. And so we'll be talking about sleep. It'll be again available around the same time. I have the date right at the top of my head, but it's in April. It's in May, the third Wednesday of every month. And so thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, the Q&A now, and Brittany will assist. We'll wait a few minutes in case you have some questions. If not, thank you very much for being here. Okay, great. Well, thank you all again very much and have a wonderful day. Stay warm.